Hi everyone. Welcome to the Mellow Yellow workshop, the all yellow arrangement in the blue dolly pot, which has been such a huge hit because it's so now and so versatile. Super excited that you guys are here and joining us for this really interesting and cool workshop. So let's go through everything that you should have in front of you. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time joining us, I'm Amanda Blissett, owner of Bloomhouse Fine Flowers in Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, which is a suburb of San Antonio. And we are just thrilled to be doing these workshops and offering an at-home or workplace team building exercise. There's all sorts of things you can do with these workshops, but I'm thrilled to share my knowledge and a little bit of skill with you, and hopefully you learn something along the way. But so we're going to start by going through everything that we've got in our kit. We've got our blue dolly pot. You should have your soaked oasis, which is the green foam stuff, and should be fully soaked already, so nice and dark in color. You should have a kitchen knife of some sort. This is the kind that we use in our shop, but anything that can cut that foam. You should have floral shears of some sort, or just good regular scissors are okay too. If you enjoy our workshops and you want to use the tools we use, you can buy this go on our website underneath our favorite things, and it will take you to the Amazon link where you can get them the next day. But these are actually made in Japan, and they are amazing. They're ergonomical, and they cut through stems like butter, even the really tough stuff. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. It's Sakichin. Can you see that in there? There you go. Sorry, these are super dirty. This is exclusively what we use in-house. I always have a towel of some sort because it gets really messy. And then you should have your bundle. And that should have already been hydrating so that they're nice and firm and rigid for our workshop. So what we're going to do first is we're going to prep our vase. So we're going to take our oasis and put our vase straight in front of us. And looking at this, it's not exactly a square, it's rectangle. So you can either have it fat and flat or tall and skinny. And in this case, because we're going to have so much directional things, we want it a little bit taller than our base. So we're going to do it the tall and skinny way. So we're going to put it right on top of our vase like that and give it just a small little press. And then that gets your marks on where you need to cut it. On this vase in particular, you could just press all the way down and it would fit right in, but we're gonna cut it because that's a really messy way. So now that you have your marks, you're just gonna cut as straight down as possible. It's better to cut slightly bigger and then shave off as you need than to shave too closely or too much and then it really jiggle in your pot. Now when you're cutting your oasis, if you see this, that means that was an air pocket. And so it'll be really important that you water your vase again after you've made your arrangement because you need this to be fully soaked. If you stick a stem in here and it ends up in this dry pocket, it's not going to have a water source. And it got that because the top of it got water on it and then just trapped that air bubble in there. Alrighty. So now that we have that cut, I'm going to end up putting this in the, I'm going to put that in the bottom because it will soak up more from the bottom. And then wiggle your way down in there, right like that. So you should have a good 1/2 inch sticking up on top of your vase. And it's okay that you've got these little open pieces. That's not going to matter at all. And the reason why we use the oasis, especially for these workshops, is because when you put a stem in here, it's pretty much going to stay exactly where you put it. It's not going to move around, and you're not going to have to fight with things staying in place as we go through the design. So now that we've got our vase ready, we're going to put it to the side, and we're going to prep all of our flowers. I'm going to move my little trash can a little bit closer. So go ahead and take your flowers out of the water. We're going to lay them all down in front of us. And we're going to go through exactly what we have here. So you should have some beautiful yellow ranunculus that are beautiful and open. We're convinced that this is the Clooney variety, which is Japanese, which they have the most enormous open ranunculuses ever. And they're ultra premium flower. And I'm convinced that our wholesaler must have gotten us a fabulous deal and secured these for us at a great price. So they should be big and beautiful. All I did was pull down the leaves a little bit on these. Other than that, there's no cleaning you need to do on them. The petals on the back side, even if they're damaged, go ahead and leave them, because as you can see, you can't see them from the top. And if you pull these off, then it's more chances for the bloom to just fall apart. So we're going to leave these just as they are. And as it ages, those older petals will continue to kind of go underneath and you won't see them. Next we have stalk, and then snapdragon. And these are very similar, but they obviously have very different qualities about them. These are much more fluffy. The stalk is much more fluffy, and they really have blooms all the way to the tips. And then snapdragon is definitely more pointy, not quite as fluffy, and they have green tips at the top. And they can be really directional, whereas stalk usually it doesn't bend too much. Then you should have 5 stems of yellow spray roses. You should have 4 yellow tulips, and then 5 stems of Israeli ruscus. There are different varieties of ruscus, and this one in particular is called Israeli. You probably won't need all of this, but I wanted you to have more than necessary just in case. So we're going to put this off to the side, the ruscus, as we're cleaning up everything else. So let's start with the tulips. You have to be very careful with tulips because they like to just snap like that. So when you're peeling the leaves back, make sure your fingers are all the way at the base and you're literally just peeling them down. You might see a little dirt in these crevices from the field, and that's okay. Dirt don't hurt. If you have a leaf up here within the first 3 to 4 inches, you can leave that. Otherwise, we're going to strip everything down. Yep, there's a bunch of dirt. So then do that with all 4 of your tulips. The reason why we do this is because they're just going to get in the way of us inserting them into our foam. Well, that one's a little bit further down, but I might be able to keep him. If not, I can always take them off later. Let's see if I can keep that one too. If you break one of these low, it's not a huge deal. As long as you have some sort of stem, we can find a place for him. All right. So now we've got our 4 cleaned up tulips. Let's set those off to the side. Next, we're going to go to our yellow spray roses. These are one of my most favorite varieties ever. They're just so hardy, and they hardly have any damaged petals that we have to remove. So we're going to start. If you have any thorns down here, you're just going to press them to the side like that and like just snap them off. It minimizes the chances for you to get poked. If you're not comfortable with that, then you can take your scissors or shears and just trim it off. Then you're gonna take the leaves and we're gonna not pull it from like this. We're gonna come all the way down to where it connects to the stem and break it off like that, just peel it down. That's really important when you get up here and they're connected to these little trindles. Because if I were to pull this, I could pull this whole guy off. These teeny tiny little leaves up here, that's okay, you can leave those. Then moving up further, the little green pieces around your rose, that's called the calyx, and that's where the bud formed. It doesn't matter if they're pointing up or down, as long as they're not damaged, meaning like they're creased or broken, and there's no sign of decay on them, then you can leave them alone. If there is any sign of decay or brokenness, like that guy right there, I'd probably go ahead and take him off. And you just really tighten close and use your fingernail and just peel them all the way back at the base. You don't want any what I call hanging chads. But if they just look like this and have that normal coloration in there, then it's perfectly fine. You'll be able to tell if it's decay or just a color of nature. Then moving further up, the petals around the outside, if they are damaged, those are called guard petals, and they guard the rest of the rose petals from getting damaged. So you just, like the same way with the calyxes, you just peel that petal back and break them off all the way down at the base. You don't want, again, hanging chads or anything like that. If you do, then just go in there more closely and peel them off. But like I said, this variety has very few guard petals, so you shouldn't have to remove too many at all. I always look at the top because that's the view we're gonna see, just to make sure there are no creased petals or anything that's damaged. If you have a petal that's damaged more on the inside, you can wiggle your fingers in there and just pull out that one bloom or that one petal versus the whole thing. So go ahead and do that with all 5 of your spray roses. I'm taking off this bud because he's not going to be useful, but you can see the beginnings of that calyx before he opened. That's really cool. So go ahead and take off all the leaves. If you have any stems within that have broken or lost, there you go, you can see it. It's bloom, just go ahead and snip those off. Again, they'll just be in the way. There you go. Hope you'll have your coffee or adult beverage, depending on when you're taking the class. Maybe it might not matter. If you want to open your blooms anymore, we can't twirl them like we do our regular size roses, but you can softly, actually forcefully, blow inside in kind of a circular motion to help open them up. To help see their beautiful faces a little bit better. So you can see blown open, not blown open. It doesn't damage the flower or anything. It just allows us to see his beautiful face longer. Here we go. So now you have 5 beautiful yellow spray roses. We'll set those to the side. Can you turn the music down just a hair for me? It got kind of loud. That's Liz over there working on some event proposals. We're so thankful to be having events that we can even bid on. I'm sorry, I'm cleaning the stock while I'm talking and not even explaining it to you. So this is stock, and it has a beautiful fragrance to it. It's fresh, but still a little sweet smelling. And what we're doing is we're just peeling off the leaves like we were, thanks Liz, the other stems. And then if you have any damaged petals, they're going to most typically be at the bottom because those are the blooms that bloomed first. So they're going to go bad faster as well. And you can just peel those down and away. Make sure you don't have any parts of decay in there. Stock really likes air. And when they're packed too closely together, they can go bad faster. So go ahead and clean up your stock all the way. These have really soft feeling leaves. Oh, it's just so pretty. He's beautiful from all sides. I love them. Next, we're going to go to our snapdragons. The tip of this one broke off, but that's not a big deal. And it's okay for your flowers to shed a little bit. That's also part of nature. It doesn't mean that they're bad or unless like they're shedding a lot, but a petal here and there is not a big deal. So for these below the bloom mark, you're going to take your hand around, like make a little, like you're holding a quarter inside of there, and just strip all the leaves down. Like that. If you have any remaining, just peel those off. And do that with all three of them. Wow, that just made a big mess. There we go. The reason why we remove all of these leaves down from here is because they're going to get in the way when we try to insert them into the oasis. And also when we're trying to insert stems in and amongst the arrangement, we also don't want something to block. So if this leaf was laying on top of my oasis as part of arranging, and I try to put this stem down, it's going to completely block the water source and it will kill that stem faster. So we remove them so there's minimizing the chances for that to happen. All right, so 3 stems of yellow snapdragons cleaned up, and then we have our ranunculus that didn't need cleaning. So now that everything is clean and ready to go, we're going to bring our vase back over and begin designing. I like to do all the cleaning first, so when we get into the kind of creative mojo and have those creative juices flowing, we don't have to stop and interrupt to clean. So this is going to be a front-facing arrangement. So I'm going to design it the way you should be seeing your own arrangement. And then the back side, we're going to finish it with this Israeli ruscus, because we call it hiding the magic. You're not going to see any of the foam. You're not going to see any of the bare stems, any of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't matter if you do see it from behind, it's still going to be relatively pretty. So what we're going to do first is we're going to work from the sides and fill into the middle. So we're going to take our snapdragon first, and we're going to work with them the way that they work in nature. And that tends to be the more beautiful arrangements, is when they kind of look a little bit more natural. So when flowers grow, they grow towards the sun. Even if they're like this, they're growing towards the sun. So we want to arrange them pointing up, because when you have things pointed down, it can be associated with dead, dying, or just droopy flowers. Even though it might be perfectly healthy, it's going to be perceived as unhealthy because it's going downward. So we're going to kind of envision in our mind, I'm just going to cut these a little shorter so I can show you. It's really good to have an idea of what you're doing in your mind before we get started. Is we're going to have these kind of in a staggered area like this and to the side. And the way you determine how tall you should go above your arrangement is about 1 1/3. So the same height plus a hair more is acceptable. So I'm going to take my most curvy snapdragon, which is probably this guy, and I'm going to do him first. So if I'm envisioning, I want him to be at a really good angle, so more than 45. So that would be about 45. I want him to be more than 45. And when I insert him into the oasis, I want the blooms to go all the way to the bottom of the vase. So to do that, I'm envisioning on how far I need to cut. So about 2 inches from the base bloom is where I want to cut. You're going to cut that at a nice steep angle, like that. And that's for 2 reasons. One is so when we're inserting into the oasis, we're inserting it like like a knife, so it's nice and sharp, versus a blunt end just crushing its way through. And it opens up more of the stem to allow for more water to be absorbed. So we're going to go think about our vase in kind of quadrants. We're going to go right in the middle section. Like I said, at a really nice steep angle, not quite 90, not all the way, but more than 45. And right here at the base of the vase, we're going to insert him all the way to where the bloom is touching the bottom. Be careful. If it's going in and giving you a lot of resistance, then go ahead and take him back out, snip him a little bit shorter, and try again. So now we're going to do a snapdragon, one in front of this one and one behind this one. And we'll have one up and down like this, and then one a little bit tighter like this, okay? So this first one, again, I'm going to measure against my base. I want about 2 inches down. And he's going to be at a different angle than this first one, not totally up and down, but so it's more like a 25, 30 degree angle. And this one's going in front of that first one. And so this guy, he's now like more pointed towards me when he should be pointed up. So I'm just going to rotate him a little bit. There we go. So now he's got that nice little curve. And then this guy, I'm going to put behind him at just slightly straighter angle than this last one I did. So measuring, I want him about right there. We're going to go 2 inches down and give him a nice little cut. And then again, right at the base of my vase is where I'm inserting him, right down here. And I'm behind my original snapdragon at a little bit less of a degree of angle than my last one. There we go, right like that. Next, we're going to go to the opposite side, and we're going to do basically the same thing with our stalk, but it's not going to be as tall. This is the tall part, and then this will be the shorter part. So I'm going to cut, actually I'm going to take my longest piece, my most fluffy piece, and I'm going to measure, again, about 2 inches below the last bloom. Also, kind of a pro tip, if you cut with the angle facing up, when the weight of the bloom pushes down like this, then it forces that cut exposed edge to press against the water source more, versus if he was cut like this, then it would almost lift away from that water source. So cutting up is always better. So we're gonna go again at a more than 45-degree angle, all the way in, nice and fluffy, straight there in the middle. So we've got this nice line here. And then my next biggest piece is gonna go behind it, and my smaller piece is gonna go in front of it. So we're gonna do the front part first. Again, even though he's short, he's about 2 to 3 inches below the blooms. And the same angle I did this one. There we go. And then this one can be slightly taller. He's gonna go right like that. So kind of in between. And he's gonna go behind your original stock. Perfect. All right, and then this is what it looks like on the top. It kind of looks a little funny, like Mickey Mouse ears or something. Clean up my area. There we go. Turning the music back on for me. No worries. I can't believe we blew through that playlist already. We learned that we have to use copyright-free music, otherwise YouTube flags us. Oh, okay. Oopsie. Alrighty. So next we're going to use our tulips, because these are really fragile, and we want to have as much room as possible to get nice and close into the oasis as we're threading it in. Again, if you break it, it's not a huge deal, but that's what we're going to do. And so we're going to kind of think of our arrangement now in like a half. So we're not going to do the back side. We're going to start in the middle and work our way forward, like towards you. And again, these things go with nature. So we're going to work with the natural bends. So I'm going to really analyze what I have here and what I kind of want it to look like. So I want it to be staggered in there, kind of like this. So I'm going to start with my top guy. And I want him to be about just above where my first stalk is, but not taller than my snapdragon. And so envisioning that, I know where to cut if I want him to be about like that. So this is where he'll enter, and I want at least 2 inches below that. So this might be a hair long. And so now again, we're thinking of like the middle section of our oasis. And that's where I'm going to put, and I'm going to put him over here against the stalk. We're going to think of these in kind of sections now. This will be our stalk, then this will be our spray roses, and over here will be our ranunculus. So right at the top, you'll really feel when the flower won't give you anything more. You can't get him in there. And if he's not the right height that you wanted him, then take him out, give him a fresh cut and a new insertion. Then our next one is going to be slightly shorter than this one and in front of. Okay, so we're going to have this big yellow section of tulip right there. So I want him about here-ish. And that's going to be kind of long probably, so I'm going to trim him a little bit more. When they're bendy like this, they're a little bit more tricky to get them exactly where you want them. Perfect. Again, shorter and just in front of the first one. Our next one we want even shorter, about here. And so 2 inches below that would be about there. And you're going to do this again in front of that first tulip. I'm going to turn them around so I can see what I'm doing. You could even go a little shorter. And then our last one is going to be our shortest one. And he's going to be at a pretty good angle here, way down at the bottom. Perfect. Don't worry if you can see the oasis. We'll hide that with the greenery in a little bit. Alrighty. Next, we're going to do, actually, I think we'll do our spray roses. Normally, I would do our ranunculus because they're the next most fragile. I do want space, but because they are such a statement flower, I don't want them to get overpowered by my spray roses. I want these guys to really shine. So next, we'll do our spray roses. And you can have a couple of different ways of doing this. I'm going to choose the ones that are a little bit more in line, so I can get a little bit more solid line in there. The blooms that are super low, like this guy, he's not really up here with the rest of them. So I'm going to cut him off right where he connects to the main stem, but I'm not discarding him because I might be able to use him as an individual later. So right there where he connects, I'm just going to snip him off. Again, no hanging chat or anything like that, as if he was never there. Okay, so my most rounded cluster I'm going to do at the top. And we're going to do the same manner. We're going to kind of connect this over. So I'm envisioning about how far down I need to cut, about 2 to 3 inches. And then we go back to our middle, right next to our tulips, and go all the way. Careful about running into other stems. So that I pushed in too far. So I can't take him out or just pull him up a little bit higher because now he doesn't have access to that water source. So I need to make a new hole. I'm just going to do it at a slightly different angle. There we go. So we want that nice little bridge right there. I'm going to go ahead and do one more right next to it to finish in this bridge because our ranunculus won't fill in all of that. Perfect. Now I'm going to continue a little line right through here with our ranunculus or with our spray roses, staggering down to the front. And as you come to the front, especially on these spray roses, you'll want to put them at an angle facing you as you get down to the bottom. So each one gets a little shorter and shorter. Now this guy is kind of covering up my tulip, so I might just snip that one off. It's like stealing the show. But I can use him as an individual to get him a little bit lower. So if you did have any individuals, you can use those to like fill in any gaps that you might have. There you go. So you still have that good gap for your ranunculus.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. I will just make a note to, do you want me to text or email it to you?
Alrighty. So I'm just taking a look to see if there are any holes or gaps. And I haven't used all of my stems or blooms, so I still have one left, which is okay, because I'm going to use him to fill in holes when we're done with our ranunculus. So now in this remaining, we're going to do the same. I'm going to choose my biggest bloom for down here at the bottom, and this guy, we're going to go ahead and put it up here at the top, and we want him to be nice and in line with the rest of the flowers. The next one will be slightly shorter and in front of the original ranunculus, like that. And our last one will be the shortest one, right here at the bottom. Right like that. Perfectly filled in that gap. We have this beautiful ranunculus on site. You don't want them any lower than your anything else. So we want everything nice and in line. So now it's up to you if you want to just, like for this example, I could choose to fill it in with spray roses, but I don't want to take away from the tulip. So I'm going to leave him and put a little greenery there. So now we have this backside that's not pretty. And so we need to cover that up. So now we're going to take our Italian ruscus, no, Israeli ruscus, and we're going to cut him into sections that will cover up this backside. And it's okay, we don't want him any higher than our blooms, but it's okay if he's seen from the front because it will just add a little texture. So we're going to envision about how long we need. We're going to come all the way down to where you've got kind of a blank section of stem. And at the top of the next line of leaves, we're going to go ahead and give it a really clean snip. Again, so we don't have any stems sticking up or remaining, because we call all those hanging chads, and that's not normal and natural. But now we got two uses out of this. These bottom scragglies I almost always remove. So now I have two uses of this stem. And I'm going to take off a few more of these bottoms so I have more stem to insert. And we're going to start like we did in the flower part of it. We're going to start from the top in the middle section and work our way down and with lower and lower pieces. These bigger guys, I'm going to end up using him as the shorter, bigger pieces at the bottom. So now I actually got 3 uses out of him. So those will come and do these bottom sections here because they're bigger leaves and shorter stems. You can see that. And you can just fill in as much as you can. Wherever you see oasis or stems, we're just going to want to go ahead and cover those up. You know, it's hard to see with that sunlight. And just fill it in all the way till you can't see that oasis anymore. We call it hiding the magic. All right, so now we've got this nice fluffy backside. And then it's, as you can see, it's totally hiding all those stems that we had. And I'm gonna go back to this front side and put a little section there. And these leaves in particular, I don't want to be super long or big. We don't want them to be distracting. But again, we do need to fill in that little hole. And it kind of adds a little accent to it. And so there is your finished arrangement. Remember that you need to water it because it's not in a glass vase. It's really easy to forget that you need to water it. If you have a water softener in your house, it's really, really important not to use soft water. Either use water from your hose or those conditioning packets that came in your workshop, but do remember to water it, not soft water. Soft water will kill it in a heartbeat. And then don't forget to take pictures of you and your smiling arrangement and share them on Facebook, Instagram, and tag us. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Our next one isn't until July 17th. July is a busy month as we get back to events, so we're only able to fit in one workshop that month. But it will be fun, and we're gonna have that launched later today. Thank you again for joining us. Hope you enjoy it. Bye, guys.